The inn is one possible exit at the ending of the game. It's designated by the letter O. What you will do is attempt to fight your way across the inn and escape from the other side. On the way across are several items that can be picked up. Notice that at one end of the inn there's a guard dog and a number 1 hazard. In order to cross the threshold, you must give up one piece of armor. Okay, here's how the inn works. Use an action chip to move into the foyer area right here where the letter O is. You may attempt to cross the inn this direction, or at the beginning of the game, you may enter the inn this way, paying an armor to get past the dog, and you may attempt to fight your way across the inn coming this way. For this example, I'm going to cross the inn this way. So an action chip to move into the foyer. I'm going to place an action chip to do this whole activity. No more action chips are needed to collect the items and to exit the inn. So what you're going to do is after you put down your action chip, you're going to roll a die. That's how far you're going to go across the inn. Now wherever you land, you immediately collect up what's on the floor first. So I roll a 5. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, counting the planks. That lands me on the 10 gold. So I immediately collect 10 gold. Now, if I want to continue across the inn, I will need to sacrifice a point of armor. Then I can roll a die and continue across the inn. I roll again, and I roll a 2. 1, 2. Well, there's nothing to collect here. Now, if I don't have armor to trade in, or I choose not to use up that armor, I will be thrown out the window and land in the street. I'll get to collect anything that's on the floor before I'm thrown out the window. So at any time you stop on a plank, you collect what's there, and if you choose not to use the armor or you don't have the armor, you're thrown out the windows. Now these first planks here, these 6 ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these planks, if you land anywhere in this area, you're thrown out of this window. If you land on these last 3 planks here, past the bar, you're going to be thrown out of this window. It does not take an action chip to move out because you're being forced out. Now let's pretend we're at the end of the game and the green player is attempting to escape the dungeon by going through the inn. He'll use an action chip to enter the foyer, and he'll use an action chip to roll a die and see where he lands. He rolls a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At this point, he immediately collects 3 gold and an hourglass, puts them on his card. He will need to sacrifice a point of armor, and then he can continue going across the inn. He will roll a die again. 3. 1, 2, 3. He will have to sacrifice a second point of armor to continue across the inn. If he doesn't, he'll be thrown out of this window. The green player is going to go ahead and take his final roll. Now, even though you roll over what you need to stop at the foyer, you're always required to stop at the foyer end. A high die roll does not throw you out into the street. At this point, you're required to pay 1 action to voluntarily exit the inn. Now remember, there's a guard dog here. The guard dog is going to cost you 1 more armor in order to cross that threshold. So when you put this down and cross the threshold, the green player will have to sacrifice the 1 armor. If he didn't have 1 armor, he would not be allowed to cross that threshold. Now let's see what happens when the yellow player tries to escape. The yellow player only has 2 pieces of armor in this case. The yellow player places an action chip to move into the inn. He places an action chip in the foyer area and rolls a die. He rolls a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He immediately collects 3 gold and an hourglass. He must sacrifice a piece of armor. Now he only has 1 armor left. Let's see what he rolls. In this case, he rolled a 2. 1, 2. He sacrificed his second piece of armor to stay and continue rolling. Now the problem is he has no armor left to get to the dog. At this point, he can just simply not use up that armor and be thrown out the window. If he wants to use the armor so he can attempt to try to gain some stuff on the way back, he can simply use up that armor and use his final roll for a 6, which would throw him over to here. Now he has no armor to escape the dog, so he'll have to place an action chip and then attempt to fight his way back through the inn. So he'll put an action chip there and he rolls a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He'll immediately pick up the axe and be thrown out this side window over here. Now a player can attempt to fight his way through the inn more than one time during the same turn. However, on his second time through, the items on the floor will not be there. This usually happens at the end of the game. Let's say the yellow player only has 2 armors, just like before. He'll use an action to move into the foyer and an action to attempt die rolls. So he's going to roll a die, and he ends up rolling a 1. Well, he's on the number 1 plank. He goes ahead and collects the 3 gold that's there, but he's only got 2 armor. If he wastes 1 armor to roll again, he might make it across to the other side, but he doesn't have the armor to get past the guard dog. At this point, he doesn't like this bad roll of 1. So instead of using up one of his armors to continue rolling when he knows he will fail, instead he just wants to be thrown out the window. So he says, I'm not going to use any armor. He gets chucked out the window, and then he can use an action chip to move down, an action chip to move back into the inn, and an action chip to attempt this roll again. Now at this point, there are no items on the floor to pick up. All he wants to do is try to get to the other side. So let's see how successful he is this time. He's going to roll a die, and he rolls a 5. Well, that's a little better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At this point, he now chooses to sacrifice one of his pieces of armor because he needs to roll a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If he rolls a 5 again, he will have succeeded, and he can use his second piece of armor to get past the dog. So let's see if he can roll a 5 again. 2, 1, 2. Well, at this point, there's nothing he can do. I don't think he's making it out. Whenever you go across the inn as a mode of escape, you really better have 3 pieces of armor. At this point, if he sacrifices his second piece of armor, he can continue to roll and probably make it. Well, he didn't even make it out then, but he has to have a piece of armor to pass the guard dog. So he's going to be thrown out the inn, and he's going to have to try to find another way out. Most likely, he's going to have to try to get out past the guard up here, especially since he doesn't have the lockpicks he needs to get out the lockpick door.